Okay, I was very kindly asked to make a two-handed fire build for Dragon Age The Veilguard, so that's what I'm trying. It's going to be a little different to the champion because we're not relying on things like shield toss and stuff. So we're going to give the skill tree all the items and I'll even show it in combat. And this is our scattered skill tree. Honestly, this is a build that is best set to respec into. I can kind of give you a pathing for it. But for now, let's show you how many points you have to play with. And let's begin. Obviously, we start in our warrior core and we're going to come south. And we're going to take Tumbling Blades. Essentially, you can roll and just make a really big attack afterwards. It's a pretty decent ability, to be honest, especially in a RPG. To the right, we're going to take Rancor. So Rage takes 50% longer to begin to decay. Obviously, your Rage is what causes your abilities. So the less it decays, the more chance you've got of stacking it up once you get into combat and then triggering your abilities. To the bottom right, we're going to take Spectral Bulwark, a really nice early ability you can take. Necrotic damage, nice and protective. To the top right of that, we want Enraged, so Rage Generation plus 10%. Again, ties into building our Rage up ASAP. And then below Spectral Bulwark, we want Killer Instinct, Stagger from abilities plus 20%. Stagger fills up the stagger bar. Once that's full, you can do takedowns, and takedowns are incredible. Now come back to Tumbling Blades, we're going to go to the top left and we're going to take Downfall. Essentially when you jump you can do a critical hit if the target is knocked down. It's really good. To the bottom left we're going to take our early fire ability, Fury of the Forge. It's a strike projectile and it applies burning to the target. Below that we're going to take Velocity, it's a stagger from weapon attacks plus 20%. To the bottom right, Guardian's Reprieve, performing a takedown heals you for 250 health and grants Deflect. This is amazing because we're building up our stagger. So doing a takedown, heal up, as well as get Deflect. And Deflect means that the next impact results in no damage. Now to the bottom right of that, we're going to come in here, we're going to take Concentration, charged attack damage 10%. To the bottom right again, we're going to take Flames of Victory. So again, flaming weapons on a successful takedown. You generate 25% more stagger from weapon hits while flaming weapons is active. So now our takedowns will heal us, give us rage, and cause flaming weapons, therefore giving us more stagger. To the bottom right again, we're going to come in here, we're going to take Bulwark for physical resistance plus 10%, and once again to the bottom right for Concussive Smash. Hitting enemies with a smash ability permanently reduces their defense by 20, this is awesome on bosses. Above that we are also going to take Quick Strikes, defeating an enemy with a strike ability replenishes 25 rage. Now coming back to Flames of Victory, we're going to come to the bottom left this time. We're going to go Stagger and Charge. So Stagger from charge attacks plus 20%. So between the two passes we've taken, we've got 10% boost to our damage and now 20% boost to our stagger. And to the top left, Overhand Smash. Smash abilities now do an additional 50% damage versus armor and deal 50% more stagger. And loads of enemies in this game have armor, so this is perfect. Now we come all the way back up here where we were to Velocity. We're going to come to the top left and we're going to take Determined Death. You can now hold down your final attacks, strengthening their impact. This is a really nice ability. It does take some timing, but if you can do it, really nice. We're going to come to the south and we're going to take Wrath for critical damage plus 10%. To the top left for Insight Violence. Generate 15% more rage from weapon attacks. And this value is doubled versus enemies suffering from an affliction, and burning is an affliction. Coming south again, Stagger and Finale. Stagger from final attacks plus 20%. Again, just trying to get those takedowns. Back to Insight Violence, we're going to top left and we're going to take Desolate Malady from Affliction damage plus 10%, boosting that burn. North of Insight Violence, we are going to take Underestimated. So light attack damage versus health 10%, just a nice solid boost to our base damage. Above that, we're going to take Punisher. Damage dealt by strike abilities versus enemies with low health increases by 25%. Now coming back to Determined Death, we're going north for Decisive Finish. Agile attack damage plus 10%, charge attack damage plus 10%, final attack damage plus 10%. Nice boost stats across the board. North again to Sly Strike. Agile charge and final attacks deal an additional 15% bonus damage to enemies suffering from an affliction. So again, land your burn, and then this is just boosting them up even further. To the north, we're going to take Wildfire for base fire damage plus 10%. To the top right, Heavy Armor Mastery. So we're wearing heavy helm and armor, defense plus 20%, and we're less likely to be disrupted when getting hit. North of that, we're going to take Enraged for the rage generation plus 10% to get to those abilities quicker. And to the bottom left, we're going to round out the square with Fiery Resolve. Now north of this, we're going to go straight up for Heavy Hitter, heavy attack damage plus 10%. To the top right for Battlefield Awareness, when you interrupt an enemy in the middle of an attack with a controlled ability, you do an additional 15% bonus damage. And to the top left of that, Collateral Damage. Hitting multiple enemies with a single area ability deals 10% more damage for each enemy hit. Now coming back down to Heavy Hitter, we're going to go to the bottom left and we're going to take Grappling Spear. Really nice ability, applies Overwhelm, so you can stack this really nicely with your teammates. And we're going to come south. We're going to take Traumatize for the takedown damage plus 15%. And then to the bottom left for Falter. Using control abilities, attacks versus enemies with high health deals 100% additional stagger. Back to Grappling Spear, we're going to come to the bottom left, and we're going to take Staggering Charge, so stagger from charged attacks, plus 20%. Pairs very nicely with our boost of damage. And to the north for Unbroken Finale, again another nice way, if you can do this with your shield, if you want to bring that out every so often, you can knock enemies off the ledges and whatnot, it's really good. And this is where we'll dip into the specialization. Now as I said, if you want to dip into the skill tree, work your way to specialization and then take all the other nodes as you go. Obviously you can only take this once you get to level 20, some abilities are level 30. So just make your way here, and then once you've unlocked it, keep progressing your way through, and then in the meantime round out some of the rest of the skill tree. So coming into our champion, we get Warden's Fire, an amazing ultimate ability that applies burning to enemies. To the top left we're going to take Blightbane. This is a 2 rage ability projectile. It does 1,500 fire damage, detonates weakened, and it's awesome. Causes burning to enemies as well, and therefore we again get a bunch of boosted damage. To the bottom left we're going to take Shield Breaker, so shield damage plus 10%. To the top left, Inspiring Guard, and that's because we need to get to the bottom left again for Battle Cry, for base defense and health boost of 10%. Coming back to our Blightbane, we're going to north for Wildfire, and we're going to fill out the whole skill tree going up here. So we are going to take Endless Fire. Area abilities now deal fire damage, Blightbane deals an additional blast. Reverb, so trigger a powerful shockwave when executing a perfect defense. The shockwave deals 300 fire damage and applies burning. Flare up from maximum burning stat, because that basically just means we deal more damage. To the top right, Ring of Fire, burning is now also applied to enemies around the target. And then finally, Inflamed, burning damage increases by 20% of your current rage. So if we come back to our Unbroken Finale, we're then going to go to the top right. Take Arcane Defiance to get some electric and necrotic resistance. Not really key for this build, but we do need to continue to the top right for Pump the Primer. Again, not really necessary, but we do need to continue for 3rd degree. Maximum burning stats plus 1. Going to come to the top right again to get Ready Guard, so they gain Deflect at the start of each encounter. Don't forget, Deflect means you ignore the first attack that goes through your defenses. To the bottom right to get Traumatize for extra takedown damage by 15%. And then to the bottom left to get Groundbreaker, another strike control 2 rage fire ability that also detonates weakened, so you can pair this nicely. To the bottom left we're going to take Improved Health, and to the bottom right we're going to take Depth of Fury for maximum rage plus 50. And then to the bottom left for Masochism, you generate 4 rage when taking damage. The bottom left brings us to Providence for an advantage duration plus 20%, but that means we can go to the top left and we can get Reinforced. Defeating enemy with a control ability grants Deflect, therefore tanking us up a little bit. Now when it comes to your items, you want to take as close to this as possible. Ideally you have them more upgraded than this. Obviously I've had to go through the game 3 times, so a lot of items I've just not bothered to fully upgrade because it takes forever. But for a normal sword we're going to take the Spellbound Longsword. Reason being is adds 40 fire damage, getting flaming weapons on kill with this weapon. Half your fire resistance is added as damage to your flaming weapons, and eventually apply burning on charged attacks while flaming weapons is active. The shield we're going to take the Captain's Heater, really good defense and health and resistances, and weapon damage increased by 15% with the sum of all your resistances. And obviously this is meant to be a 2-handed build, but these are just if you want that option. For a 2-handed weapon I like the Emberon's Shard. So 476 physical damage with 260 stagger, 25% affliction damage, this will affect your burning. Apply burning with your next attack when defeating an enemy with this weapon, plus 20% weapon damage per burning stack on target, and eventually gain 10 burning damage per stack. So don't forget we've got extra stacks we can do, and then we get extra damage. For a helmet, the Enlightened Helm. So 98 base defense with 17 ability damage, 25% burning damage, 25% burning duration, and eventually +2 maximum burning stacks, and burning enemies cannot dodge. For armour, the champion's Brilliant Regala, 25% fire resistance, 5 max fire resistance, immune to burning, and eventually deal 150 fire damage and apply burning to nearby enemies when you reach low health. For items, I like the Tinted Kit, 20% healing received and a revival charge. For an amulet, I really like the Pale Reflection, 20% damage versus enemies with low health. Standard enemies are always considered to have low health. Defeating enemy grants 5% ultimate. For rings, I like the Unburnable Band, 20% burning damage, 20% damage versus burning enemies, 25% burning duration, and a maximum burning stack. So if you probably noticed, we're boosting up our stacks of burning, boosting up the damage itself and the duration of it. And the Warden's Signet, plus 15 fire damage, plus 25% fire resistance, plus 20% fire ability damage versus armor, and 50% of all your other damage type bonuses contribute to your fire bonus. It's an incredible stat. If we just come in here, you'll see we've got fire resistance 25%, so that all kicks into this as well. Lots of good stuff. For abilities, Blightbane, Groundbreaker, Grappling Spear, and of course Warden's Fire. And when it comes to runes, obviously you're going to switch these out depending on your enemy type. If you're fighting Venatori, you're going to want a Cold Rune, for example. I'm picking 3 just based on the passives. So, 10% damage, 10% fire damage, and 10% charged attack damage. Okay, so here we are in the combat, and because I know people like proof, if we go to gameplay, we're playing on Underdog.
They got us inside.
And let's get our two-handed weapon out, and let's get this going. You'll see we have only a little bit of rage available. In fact, we have no rage available. We do have our grappling spear though. So let's start with our Warden's Fire once we group everyone together. We'll get that ultimate ability so you can see all the burning. And then we can start smacking. Now you see they have armor, and we can come in here with our heavy attacks. Now I am not very good at deflecting, but there you go, you see we can do some huge attacks like that. Heavies are doing good damage because we're against a burning enemy, and you can just constantly roll out the way and do things like that and just knock them off of the beams. Now you see we've already got the enemy burning again, nice and easy to do. And then all we have to do is wallop them with heavy attacks, and you'll see the burn stacks up, does some decent damage, and you just get to wail on these enemies with attacks like this. Now if we charge up our light attack to its max, you see we did a bunch there, and we can then do our smash abilities like this. Again, huge burning going. We can do our Blight Bomb. Again, huge damage, just like that. And this is really a build where the abilities play such a key part, and we regenerate our rage so quickly that you are just throwing around Blight Bombs and all that fun stuff. And because we've got a takedown, you'll see we fill up that health bar, we've got flaming weapons, deflect, immobilate, all sorts. And once again, you'll see how quickly we filled up our ultimate ability. So we can come back in here with another one of these, get our Warden Fire going, get the burn on the enemies, and start doing all that extra damage. You'll see we got the deflect there, so we start doing some crazy damage with that as well. It's just a really fun build. We've got the 4 stacks of burning thanks to the deflects. We can do our little grappling spear to overwhelm, which then also adds status effects. Overall, it's just an incredible build to deal a bunch of fire damage, help you deal with enemies, throw your Blight Bombs again that cause burning. You see 6 stacks of burning, so it's just a bunch of free damage. Overall, just a really fun build to do. It's obviously not going to be as optimised as a Reaper or Slayer or a Champion with a Sword and Board, but it is just a fun build as I roll into everything. So yeah, I really hope you have enjoyed this build. If you have, let me know in the comments below. Let me know what other items you'd use, what other skills, all that fun stuff. If there's another way you'd go with this build to have a flaming two-handed weapon build. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel, it helps me tremendously. I've got a whole bunch of other guides and Let's Plays, as well as guides for games like Baldur's Gate and whatnot. And hopefully, I'll see you in the next video. Bye guys.